All right, so assignment 1.1 is your first assignment. Um, and it's a follow-up from what we started in class. One student reached out to me and said, hey, didn't you say we're going to be doing what I say in this assignment during the next class? And yes, and that's why I also say, if it is on my Canvas, that is what it is. If it isn't on there, that's not what it is. This is a good example. Sometimes I change things up based on reflecting how the class went and just thinking about where we want to go. So anyway, in this assignment, it's different from the rest that you'll have during the semester because it's kind of scattershot. The rest, they'll feel more cohesive. And I also, just to note, this week's workload is a little lighter than you can expect for many of the weeks, but that doesn't mean I don't love you and care about your education, so please don't interpret it as such. The details, items that you're going to work on, there's 3 of them. So one is just a follow-up on where plants matter comes from, which is what we did a little bit of in class. The second will be an analysis of the video that you actually looked at for your discussion, the exact same video clip, just a more just kind of structured, detailed analysis. And then thinking about this class in general, what you want to get from this class and what you want to learn. So anyway, I'll just go through section by section again, follow up on where plants matters come from, lessons from thin air, clarifying your learning hopes. So where plants matter comes from, the purpose of this part of the assignment is to just deepen your own understanding as best you can where the matter that makes up plants comes from, and to that end. And so before I get into the details, just be aware that I know we haven't spent a ton of time. I'm not, as I mentioned in class, grading you on correct or incorrect or anything like that. I just want you to express your understanding, to deepen it as best you can. And we're going to build on this throughout the semester, but particularly the first couple of weeks. So don't worry about, if you don't feel like you have it, have a full, complete grasp of the content here. I don't expect you to. So to that end of deepening your understanding, create a visual model that illustrates how plants matter comes from the air around us. And we talked about that in class a little bit. And it would be ideal if your model included items like where the CO2 comes from right before being taken in by the plant. Not like 20 years ago, but right before it gets into the plant, where was it? That the process of photosynthesis is essentially CO2 being converted to glucose through photosynthesis. And then this is the part we didn't get at all to in class, but this is an important piece. The plant takes that glucose and converts some of it into essentially it converts it into the wood, the flowers, the plant matter, the leaves, the lignins, the cellulose, if it's plant, the pollen. If it's plant, it came from glucose at some point. So essentially CO2 gets taken in, gets converted to glucose, and then converts some of that glucose for its structural material. Some of it gets used as an energy source for cellular respiration. So that's one part of this part of the assignment. And then the second, in 15 words or less, and just synthesize it down. Where does plants matter come from? When I say visual, really any way you want to do it. Hand-drawn and just take a picture of it. If you want to use a computer application to do it, fine. Really any kind of visual that you want to do. And it can include words. I just want to make sure there's a visual component to it. For the video analysis, watch the same video you watched for the discussion, and here are the links in the transcript. And there are what it is actually, it's about an hour-long video. I've taken a couple clips from and spliced them. And so they're not obvious when you watch it just by itself, but I've outlined the clips here. So section 1, section 2, section 3, and section 4. And for each of those 4 sections, summarize what you think the main idea is really crisply and shortly. And then for each of those sections as well, choose one phrase, sentence, or paragraph or quote that you want your future teacher self to remember. So something that imagine mailing this to yourself now to 20 years in the future. Just what do you hope sticks with you and why? So that's the second part of the assignment when we think of, sorry about the nausea-inducing scrolling. The plants matter, where it comes from, that's the visual part. The lessons from thin air video analysis we just talked about, and now we'll talk about clarifying your hopes for this class. Without looking at anything else, what are 3 things you want to get from this class? Learn how to do or learn about, no more, no less. Just 3 things you hope to get from this class. And then look at the learning outcomes that are below, which are learning outcomes that I have drafted for this class. And just take a look at them, read through them. Which seems the hardest for you and why, and which seems the most manageable and why. And don't worry about perfect understanding. Some of these terms are jargon, are going to feel like educanese jargon to you. Don't worry about understanding them perfectly. We're just trying to get a general sense. So there's these ones that are all related to a final project that'll probably evolve a little bit. And then there's some other separate ones here. And I've included some other information at the bottom here about submitting. Just don't submit in Pages because I can't read it. Or I can, but the Canvas cannot. So that's just a quick description. Hopefully that's helpful. If you do have questions beyond this, feel free to reach out. Usually when people reach out and ask questions about assignments, it's a really good indication that I've either said things in ways that are confusing, unclear, or that kind of contradict each other. So I really do appreciate when folks ask questions. So thank you in advance for helping me be as clear as possible.